Welcome to Monday Motivations, 52 Weeks to a More Purposeful You. Corry Mendoza here, and I have our very good friend, Erik Sjolie here. So this week we are in chapter 27, and the topic is lemonade, which might sound a little, you can only guess what it might be about, but we'll get into that in a moment. I'm really excited to have you on the show. And before we get into your bio and the topic, would you share with our listeners about your recent experience meeting David Goggins?
Yeah, no. It was a pretty big moment for me. His book, Can't Hurt Me, is definitely the most impactful book that I've read, or in this case, listened to. I always tell everyone I highly recommend the audiobook because he's involved in it. So he always adds to each chapter and goes more in depth on the story. So you get a lot more value, in my opinion, out of the audiobook. But his story is incredible. The person and the community he built is really second to none. So it's very inspirational, impactful to me. So I've always known that I wanted to either meet him, shake his hand, just thank him for the value he's given in my life, or listen to him speak. I know he does a few speaking engagements throughout the world, but usually at like companies and things of that sort that it might be hard to get invited to. And just out of nowhere, he recently did this, well, not out of nowhere, the 4x48 challenge he does, or 4x4x48 challenge he does, is to raise, a fundraiser, raise awareness. But it's basically for 48 hours, you run 4 miles every 4 hours. So you end up running about 2 marathons over 2 days. This year, I did not participate in the event, but I'm going to try to next year. And you can run or walk it. So there's kind of a couple different ways. He definitely runs the whole thing.
Or maybe a combo, like I run 1 4 mile, distance.
Or run a mile, walk a mile, run a while. Yeah. But it's every 4 hours. So I end up finding out I had a lot of friends that were doing it. They're doing live posts at 3 a.m. when it's their 4-hour shift. So it's a pretty dedicated thing you do over. It's starts on a Friday, ends on a Sunday night. And I was watching his video before, talking about it starting and getting to go. And he said, we'll be at 8 a.m. We'll be in Placerville, California, if you want to come out and run the 4-mile stretch with me. And I went, wait, what? So I researched it, and sure enough, he was there. But I had my kids, and it was too early to get them up, and I'm not going to leave a 6-year-old home alone. So I don't know.
That might be tempting. No.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, believe me. I'm like, hey, maybe would this be bad now?
She'll be fine.
So I was like, I'm going to miss it. My chance. He's so close. And then he posted another one after that event at 9, saying they have one more stop before they leave Sacramento, and it was at the Nimbus Fish Hatchery in Citrus Heights, or Gold River. Excuse me, yeah. Gold River, that's where it is. And that was at noon. And, he invites anyone to come out, whether they're going to work out with him or just to say hi. So I said, hey, kids, we're going to go out there and we'll grab lunch afterwards. And there was a big crowd, but we definitely, got up there. I got to shake his hand, thank him, get a nice picture with my daughters and him. And he was just so pleasant and kind to my kids and really just everyone, because people were surrounding him. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was, his whole persona is he's really hard. He cusses a lot, very direct. But that's not the case when you see him in person. He was very pleasant, very patient. People were wanting photos, autographs, because he's influenced and made a big impacts on a lot of people's lives. And if you're in his community, he has some Facebook groups and all that, you'll see that where, there's people that have lost hundreds of pounds because of being inspired by him. So yeah, that was just, a week or two ago. And it was a very, very fanboy moment. That doesn't really happen often with me. Maybe a few sport athletes or something like that would happen too, but not so much. And it was definitely, my kids were making fun of me because I was pretty pumped about the opportunity to meet him, even though it was brief, 10, 15 seconds with him, but it was a cool moment. Got to shake his hand, thank him. So
yeah. When I saw it on Facebook, I was so excited for you. And so yeah, it's cool. I'm that kind of person too, where I'm always reaching out. In fact, next week's podcast speaker, he's an author, and it's like, if there's a famous person that I want to meet, I just reach out to them. And it's surprising how often you can actually meet somebody and build a relationship with somebody if you just value yourself as much as we perceive they're achieving these great things. But it's like, man, because we learn so much with who we're around. And speaking of who we're around you. So I want to tell our audience about you.
Sounds good.
So Erik Sjolie, did I say it right?
Sjolie, yeah, that is correct. It's a
Erik
unique, different last name.
Very unique. brings over a decade of experience in the financial and insurance industry to Sky Insurance. At Sky, Erik is tasked with agency development and growth, as well as developing its agents. And you have past experience with New York Life, MassMutual. So, you know, when you launched your own business, it's like you were ready to put your mark in the world.
I was, yes.
Yeah. So as a lifelong Placer County resident, Erik feels blessed to be able to work with the people in the community he calls home. He currently resides in Rocklin with his two daughters, Morgan and Avery, which they're just so adorable. I love
my
all the
world,
adventures.
for sure.
Yeah, you're always taking them on adventures, and great father.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, so in your spare time, he enjoys basketball and softball and helps coach youth sports, and is an avid San Francisco Giants fan. And that might be one of the things that bonds you and Rusty.
It absolutely is. I just saw pictures you guys posted, and I noticed you guys had Giants uniforms on. So that's what a lucky draw to watch your son play and rock their favorite team in colors.
Oh yeah, it's exciting. It's James's last year in Little League, and his first year he was Giants, and now his last year he's Giants. So what
a way to bookend it. Yes, fantastic.
Yeah. So this week our topic is lemonade. So how about maybe paraphrase, what is this chapter about? Week 27 lemonade.
Yeah. So no, I love this chapter. And paraphrase it on my side is, it's just being able to take adversity, take challenges in life, and really look at them as a positive or a silver lining, rather than a negative and a woe is me mentality or a victim mentality, and really finding an opportunity in the moment to succeed, to grow, and to win. Mm-hmm. So I know when I saw lemonade, I didn't know what it was entailing at first as well. But it's always make lemonade out of lemons, or turn lemons into lemonade, or whatever that term is that you hear all the time. And that really speaks volumes to what this one is really, anyone, in this journey of life, there's a million challenges, and almost everything's not going to go how you have planned or how you wanted. And it's just be able to, be flexible, pivot, maneuver, and hopefully go at it with a good attitude and make the most of it and learn from it.
Yeah. So in your life, can you think of times when you've gotten a lemon and you've turned it into lemonade, and maybe elaborate on one of those experiences?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about my industry that I'm in insurance, right? So, the last 3 or 4 years, it has been an absolute crazy time in California with all the fires that we've had. Cost of insurance is just rising through the roof, both on automobile, but let's talk specifically on home, where carriers are trying to find a way to really stay in the state and stay insuring in the state, because the cost of all these losses they've had with the historic fires that we've had over the last 3 years. It has created just huge obstacles, not only in the industry from the carrier standpoint, from the agent standpoint like ourselves, but more importantly from the insured, the people out in the community. Just all that you see it in the news, all the non-renewals happening in what they deem like high fire areas or foothills. A lot of carriers are canceling coverages on people, and it's limiting people's options in those scenarios. So a hot button is the California Fair Plan. You've heard it's a last resort policy to insure people. And, a lot of these people have seen rates that have, quadrupled up to 10 times as much as they were used to paying even, 4 or 5 years ago. So it's created a very unique situation, an uneasy situation, I guess. So looking at that, I know a lot of people in our industry, kind of threw their arms up. There were actually a lot of people I know that owned agencies that have since sold over the last 3 years, just burnt out. They said it's just too much for them now. And they walked away from it, or they just don't help in that certain scenario. I know a lot of agencies that just turn away business if it's, from Loomis on up or El Dorado Hills on up on 50, because it's just a lot of work and it might not be as profitable, and it's time consuming. So, looking at that was definitely a lemon situation for not only myself and my agency, but our industry. And, I stepped back and I said, how can we really address this, or how can we grow? How can we get better as an agency? We have a motto at Sky: refuse to be average. It's something that you'll see in a lot of our marketing pieces, and it's part of our company DNA and our rally cry. So how can we not be an average company that's either going to turn away from it or offer limited resources? So we wanted to really double down and become a beacon of light, or just a resource for the consumers out there, and try to create an opportunity that we can help and touch more people in the community with their insurance needs. So, a couple of years ago, we made the strategic decision to really double down and go all in on it, and built out our own high fire division. So we went out and hired one of the area's utmost experts in high fire insurance. Is I always like to say his name. It's Adam Levine, and it's spelled exactly like the lead singer of Maroon 5. But he definitely does not sing or look like Adam Levine. But
he's much more handsome, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's much better looking. You're absolutely correct. But yeah, so it's allowed us now to really build out a resource center, a division where we are helping a lot of people navigate the scenario, and not only bring just education to people on what's going on and why it's going on, because that was a big issue. Is a lot of people just understand, why is this carrier I've been with for 20 years now not willing to insure me? I've done nothing wrong. I've never filed a claim. So through education, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of being able to, just comfort people to an extent. And then we are always on the search for new markets, new carriers, new options. And because we're an independent agency, we work with a lot of carriers to find solutions for the people. So it's allowed us to really step up in this moment and really try to create a positive opportunity out of something that would otherwise be deemed negative in most people's eyes. And it's allowed us, like I said, to really grow and expand in those markets, and then become a huge resource for like lenders and realtors. I mean, we've really developed a name over the last 3 years for an agency that can help. A lot of people are still wanting to live in the foothills because it's beautiful, and it's a lot of people's lifelong dreams. But now it's just trying to find an insurance option to protect that asset, but two, affordability too.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one. I know I kind of went on a long tangent there, but definitely one when I was reading this, that for sure came because it's something that we're still living through and still going through right now, but it's made our agency substantially better and stronger. So
yeah. Well, okay. So to recap, I love what you said, that basically there was this, we were calling it a lemon, but it seems like it was more like just like a block, or like, what would you call it?
it was just a situation, I guess. I don't know what you would call it.
How did it hit you when you realized, before you decided to build out?
Yeah.
What did it feel like to have this obstacle or this problem or this?
It felt helpless. I think that's, and I think it felt helpless. And I think that's what a lot of other agency owners and agents were feeling. And they, people chose to deal with it different ways. Like I said, there was some that just threw their hands up and just took their ball and went home. They sold their agencies and got out of the industry. There's other ones that just basically turned their back to it. Look, we're going to stay in this, but we're not going to work in this market.
As soon as you said that word helpless, like I felt emotion, and I think that is the heart of this message. Like, people listening, if they don't understand insurance or real estate or any of the jargon, that type of language that we're using or you're using, what people will relate to is a feeling of helplessness. Correct. Where the rug is ripped out from under you. And I think everybody in our lives in different categories, we experience this. And maybe that's why also you're drawn towards David Goggins, and you've been a great inspiration to my husband, because there's so many, we get beat down, like, especially once, how young are you?
I'm early 40s.
Okay. So 40s. Yeah. And I think in our 40s, we get tired, because it's like, you're in your 20s, you're dreaming, in 30s, you have a couple bumps and bruises, relationship stuff, this and that. But then 40, we're like, okay, we've got like some physical, like, like
lot going on.
There's a lot going on. So I think that this topic is pretty powerful, to be like, when this happened, you were like, you just decided the solution isn't out there, so I'm going to create it. And because you pioneered something, then the second thing that you said was then you needed to educate and comfort your customers, people, because it's like, okay, we're going to do something different. There's this barrier. Everybody else is saying no, they're jumping ship, but I'm not going to leave you helpless. I'm going to create.
Yes. And it's really nice because it's also brought some like-minded people together. So one of my really good friends, Aurora, she owns an agency here locally. She is very much on the forefront of this high fire, runs Facebook groups and all that too. But it's just brought people locally on our industry that have that abundance mindset that have come together, and collectively we've kind of beat on this drum together, like you were speaking on. So it's just been nice and rewarding to try to help any way we can.
Yeah. I made a little note for today. When I wrote this, it's funny because I wrote this in probably around 2010, but then I self-published in 2011. And
there's a lot going on in the world right there, huh?
Yeah.
08, 09, we were coming out of a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. And it's funny how when I read it now, it means so many different things to me now, but the message still remains. And one of the things I had made this note of is that the reason that I wrote this is because I was feeling powerless. I was feeling helpless. There were so many things outside of my control and outside of my influence that I had to create something that was in my control and it was in my influence. And it shifted me out of defensive living into offensive living. And can you speak a little bit about, what that looked like because it was like defensive when they're saying no, and then you started pioneering, and then now you're in the offense.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what you were just saying is this that shift where you go from, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And it creates a lot of extra anxiety, right? Because the unknown, you're exactly right. Things are out of your control to an extent. And even as we stand here today, I don't control what the carriers are going to do. I don't control, I mean, that's all up in the air. We learn, and it's always changing. But what helps us is having a sense of direction and focus. And that allows us to regain a little bit of control in our processes and our systems on what we're doing. So it's given us peace of mind and purpose from that standpoint. And that's where I think that from the defensive, that anxiety, those extra worries that you have, and when it comes down to is exactly what you said, the control, to when you go on the offensive, you'll either have a clear plan or just a direction and focus on what you're going to do there. And there's a lot of power in that. I mean, a lot of power from a self standpoint. And I know our agency as a whole has felt it.
So we talked about kind of a big example of turning lemons into lemonade. Yep. How about a little example, like in the day-to-day stuff, maybe with your kids?
Yeah.
No,
that's a perfect one. I mean, one that when I was reading this is actually something that when I was reading this a while ago came to mind too. I went through a divorce 4 years ago, and I have two kids. And I was, fall on the sword here. I was that workaholic, would work a lot and probably not always present at home. When I'd come home from work, I was still doing stuff. And looking back, I missed a lot of moments and memories because of that. So the divorce, I went from, having my kids 100% of the time to 50% of the time now. And it forced me in that situation to just reevaluate my time spent and how intentional I am with that time. So what it's done now is, and I know you mentioned at the beginning, you love seeing all the stuff I do with my kids and our fun adventures. That is intentional and something that we've developed in our relationship that has come in the last 4 years because of that mental shift I made, where now I guard and value that time so much that even though it's 50% of the time I'm with them, they get a lot more of their dad than they used to at 100%. And we're creating a lot more memories. So I've taken that opportunity rather than going, what's wrong with this world? Why don't we have my kid, and get all upset and defensive, to not saying I love the scenario, but it still allows me to just go all in on the time I do have them. It's been so rewarding to me, and I know to them as well through this process. And that's definitely been something that's just on a daily basis on a personal side. That's really helped me.
Yeah. I definitely relate to that on there's been many different phases since I got divorced in 2008, many different phases of me going through that. And I think that's a perfect example of turning lemons into lemonade. I remember one time I was in a boundaries group at Bayside, and I took this class like seriously 4 or 5 times. I'm like, I've got to learn this. And I was in the class, and we were going around the room. And during this time, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I went through a really tough thing called parental alienation.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So it's essentially where one parent brainwashes the kids to say, I hate the other parent and I never want to see you again. And in Sac County, 12 years and older, they can decide. So
Jeez.
I ended up, for a period of time, court ordered 2 hours and 40 minutes a week with my kids. I'd pick them up from school at 2:20 and then drop them off at 5. And so I was in this class, and I was like crying, and I was like, this is so hard, and everybody's going around. And then this other mom, she was dealing with teenager issues, and she's crying, and she goes, I wish I had 2 hours and 40 minutes of peace with my kids, and I have them 24/7. And it was like, she was literally struggling, like how to manage these teenagers 24/7. And all of a sudden I saw her pain, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a gift that I can literally create an amazing 2 hours and 40 minutes a week. And by this time, my kids were teenagers as well. And it's like, a lot of teenagers are rough to deal with. So I was like, and once my mind shifted on that, it was like that time with them. It wasn't so much, I wasn't saying I only get 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then the time started going up and up.
Yeah.
And so, but there's a lot of ways, some pretty big ways we can tackle life with turning these lemons into lemonade.
Yes. All about perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perspective and gratitude. And that's a very incredible story. So thank you for sharing that, because that would be very hard, but very powerful moment when you're able to kind of shift that and look at that moment as a blessing.
Yeah. There's so many things. There's a really great TED talk by Amy Purdy. She was on I think Dancing with the Stars or something like that, but she lost both of her legs.
Oh.
And we'll have to post the link in this, but she really talks about how our limits are that's really the launch pad for us to create something great. And so it's going to be interesting to see how, with your build out, how does this grow 5 years from now, like 10 years from now? Like, what do you imagine it's going to be like 5-10 years from now?
Yeah, I've actually thought about that, because it's not going away. Everyone always hopes that, the insurance industry is going to go back and how it was 5-10 years ago. And it's just not, right. They're bringing more technology in as far as how they're mapping everything and figuring out, what they want to insure and what they don't want to. So we know we're in this for the long haul. But yeah, I think as it gets more and more, it's the expertise is going to become more and more important to try to navigate this market. So I definitely see it being a huge area of growth and opportunity for us in the state.
Yeah. Well, and I just wrote down another point. We're going to start closing this down, but I like how you said, embracing that it's not going to go away. I think part of turning lemons into lemonade is, it's like, if we keep complaining like, oh, this lemon is sour, this is sour, like, I wish it was sweet. It's like, no, it's a lemon. It's not an orange. Like, it's not, like, this is what it is. So what are you going to create from what it is?
Absolutely.
And a lot of times I'll tell like my one-on-one coaching clients, or even in groups, think about fertilizer. Like, it is pure waste. It's waste. But what do we do with it? We could use it to make our gardens better. And so when shit happens, like when crap is in our life, once we go, okay, yeah, this is bad. And what am I going to create with it? Correct. So as we close this out, what advice do you give yourself and others about this topic of lemonade?
Yeah, I think, for myself and really for anyone that's listening, it's just have perspective on the moment. And exactly what you were just saying is not, these bad situations. I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason. So there's, and God won't put you through things that you're not strong enough to handle. So it's always looking at these opportunities. I call them opportunities because it's an area for growth, right? Getting outside your comfort zone, finding a way to grow. And that's just, there's been this issue or movement in society where you're not supposed to ever be uncomfortable. You're supposed to always be comfortable and strive for that. And I don't understand why anyone would want to strive for that, because there's really not a lot of growth when you're in your little comfort bubble. So just view these as opportunities when you're pushed outside your comfort zone or dealt a bad hand or whatever you want to refer to it as, or given a lemon, and find areas how it's going to make you stronger, improve, because there's always that avenue. And then, if you can wrap your mind around it and shift your perspective, you're not only going to have a lot of peace, but a lot of excitement and growth in life, and ultimately a lot more happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts, your mindset, and your soul. So
thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. And so for anybody who wants quality insurance, and I will have to say, as soon as we were able to encourage our daughter where to go, Skylar, her nickname is Sky. We're like, Sky, go to Sky Insurance.
Yeah, worked out well.
Yeah. So for insurance, and then also, why don't you tell us about your podcast?
Oh yeah. So our agency hosts a podcast called the Greatness Podcast, and what it is it's a way for us to give back to some of our referral partners that we work with in the industry, such as, lenders and realtors. We work with a lot of incredible humans and just people that are doing great things. So it's just a platform that allows us to share their story, right? So we learn a lot more about them in depth and be able to share their story, not only within the industry, but just them personally.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking it up right now. So is it open for everybody, or is it just like a private podcast?
What do you mean private?
I can just look it up right now.
Oh, it should be. Yeah, it should be on Apple or.
What's it called? Greatness?
The Greatness Podcast by Sky Insurance Brokers. I can send you a link.
Okay. Cool. No.
It's definitely an open one. Sorry, I didn't understand that question. But yeah,
because sometimes they're
like you have to have a link to be able to see it. But yeah, no, it's definitely on there. So we're like 30 episodes in, I think, roughly right around there.
Oh, I found it.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, cool. Okay, I just added you. So
okay, perfect.
Everybody look up the Greatness Podcast. And when I searched it up,
that's it.
I just put a space Sky and it came right up. So
okay, perfect.
Yep, everybody sign up. Okay, so thank you so much, Erik.
All right, well, thank you.
Get you back on again soon.
Would love it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. And then also, everyone, next week, this is gonna be a good one. Freedom from blame. I'm gonna have to teach myself again. All right, thank you. Have a good week.